98% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't lived the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and damn, they sent me where the life is be. The level 4 with depth and fights, the type of shit they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee, I refuse to die a chump. I never been a bitch, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get punked, some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing fine. Year-long racial fights when homie, all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole, causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, bulldogs and skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF and Gumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. The Northerners was loony, quick to ride up on their rivals. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in their Bibles. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damoos, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IEs, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the Gangsta Crips move. Whatever click you choose, you better stick to the...
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to Life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down! For those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me gassing right there on that intro, man. And if you want to get that song, it is available only on a 10-song EP that you purchase directly from me by digital download. Cashapp, PayPal, or Zelle me $20. If you're interested, hit me up on my email at 16tolifemusic@gmail.com. You also can go to my YouTube playlist, scroll down to gas stations. I have a lot of my music there. And finally, if you're new to the channel and you want to catch up on some of my older content, I got some great riot stories, some boo-bop stories, disciplines, all types of interesting stuff, man. Be sure to go to my YouTube channel, go down to binge, watch the best, and I'm going to tell you, man, you definitely going to find you something that you're interested in. Now, let's hop right up into this video, man. So, I got some unfortunate news a few weeks ago about an individual who I had interviewed on my channel. For some of you guys that's been a while for around rocking with me, you may have seen the interview. The interview was called 16-Year-Old Crip Hits a Level 4. And so I interviewed a brother from Bakersfield by the name of Bear, who at the age of 16 got caught up in a situation and he got sentenced to some time, and he wound up on a 4-yard at 16 years old. Now, I don't remember exactly how much time he ended up doing. It was maybe about 15, 16 years, 17 years, somewhere up in there. It definitely was a nice amount of time. And just coincidentally, the interview that I done with Bear from Bakersfield it got the most numbers ever from all of my interviews that I've done with anybody, right? And so me and Bear used to talk, keep in contact periodically. I would often see Bear on Facebook, racing with his kids. He was always doing something with his kids, laughing, clowning, playing jokes on them, or just chilling, man. And so I got the unfortunate news a couple of weeks ago that Bear had been picked up and he had been arrested. So let me just show you guys this this video clip right here.
In your 17 Crime Watch, a Bakersfield gang member is facing federal charges on suspicion of distributing drugs in Ohio. The arrest happened at the Columbus airport on July 31st. Authorities searched his luggage and found several shoes with $60,000 stuffed in the insoles. It's suspected Tyndall, a Bakersfield gang member, obtained the money by distributing cocaine and fentanyl. Court documents show federal agents had previously tracked Tyndall and an unnamed associate to an apartment in Columbus. Investigators executed a search warrant at that apartment and say they found drugs, guns, cash, and drug paraphernalia. Tyndall is charged with conspiracy and gun charges related to drug distribution.
And so, yeah, that was a very unfortunate situation for Bear, for his family and his loved ones, so on and so forth, man. I went back and read the article once I found out this information. Somebody called me and let me know. And from what I read, it seemed like somebody had basically told on Bear. Somebody had basically gave a tip on Bear. And so he was being watched to my understanding from the things that I read and stuff. And so it's an unfortunate situation, man. It looks like he's facing a lot of time, ex-felon with a gun and some things like that. And, the drugs or whatever else they're talking about. And also it's federal. So it definitely does not look promising, right? And so I wanted to talk about this situation. I know sometimes this isn't necessarily the video that gets a lot of views, but I think it's just extremely important, right? From anybody who's been to prison and done a considerable amount of time, right? And especially for people who had life, right? Because I think everybody that's been to prison for a considerable amount of time, 8 years or better. I mean, even 5 years is a long time out of your life, but eight years and on up, 10 years, that's a considerable amount of time, right? And I think the good thing about, if there is any good thing about going to jail with a life sentence, is in order to get out, when you have a life sentence, you are forced to take a whole lot of, well, you're not necessarily forced, but it would be in your best interest. It would behoove you to take a lot of self-help classes, and especially pay attention, try to incorporate some of those things that you feel may fit in your life and you feel may make you a better person, right? I honestly can say that if I had not took any of those classes, let's just say if I had ended up taking a deal, because at one point in time, they was trying to offer me 22 years with half or whatever, and so I refused the deal. But let's just say I had took that deal, 22 with half, and I had to do 11. And so off that 22, like I said, I have to do 11. And so I know exactly when I'm getting out. So in the mindset that I was in at that time, I would have just went around and did my time, hanging out with the homies, doing whatever I do. I would have never been interested in taking a class, a self-help class, because, to keep it 100, I saw nothing wrong with myself. I'm a person who, it takes an extremely whole lot to get me angry, right? And due to that fact, when they first offered me anger management as a lifer, I didn't want it. I said, man, I don't need anger management because I don't get angry, right? But once I took the class, I realized that I do get angry more often than I thought I did. I just had started to normalize a lot of the things that I was doing. And so I wouldn't recognize the anger. I wouldn't recognize the anger until after the fact, right? Just say, for instance, right? If I happen to see some gang members, in my mind, I didn't have to be mad to pull my pistol out and shoot at these dudes, right? Without any words between us, right? Because in my mind, that was just normal gang banging activity. But what I failed to realize is I did have some deep hate, seated anger towards those dudes for whatever they had done in the past, right? And so, it was that anger that was making me do the things that I do. I just masked it and didn't realize it, right? So it's more ways than I can sit here and explain how those self-help classes helped me, and had I not took those classes, because the self-help is basically this. And like I said, initially when they offered it to me, I was against all that, man. I'm gonna just keep it 100 with y'all, no offense. I thought it was just some white man stuff, to keep it real 100. I thought it was just some white man stuff. But as I started to take the classes serious and internalize a lot of the material, I seen that those self-help classes are just ways to help a person recognize his negative thinking patterns and do something to fix that. Case in point, there was a time when, regardless of where the situation was, let's just say the situation was 6 blocks up the street from my house, I tell myself, okay, I'm just to walk up there. If it was a negative area, I'm gonna take my pistol, and if them dudes get out of line, I'm gonna pull the pistol out and I'm gonna pop on them, right? Simple as that. After taking the self-help classes, instead of taking my pistol and going up there, I would just go the other way. It's no need to even engage myself in those type of activities, right? And so it's things like that and many other things that helped a lot of us lifers see the error in our thinking and change those things to prevent negative things, right? Because one thing I definitely learned also, that as a gang member and sometimes as a person, period, you have already told yourself what you're going to do in certain situations, right? So if I'm playing basketball and a dude calls me out of my name, he disrespect me in either A, B, or C, my response is going to be D, E, and F. So my response to the disrespect was long ago formulated in my mind on how I would carry myself, right? How I would handle that situation, right? And so when you take self-help classes and you really trying to correct some of the things in your life, then you reprogram how you would react. Now, maybe if a person called me something disrespectful, now maybe I would just walk away because I see the the end of the road, right? And so unfortunately, back to bear for individuals who, even though may have did a lot of time, they wasn't forced to take these classes in order to gain their freedom. A person may say, well, man, damn, I don't see how a dude can do 15 years, man, and get out and go back to crime or go back to whatever. Bear is not the first individual that I've heard about who has gotten to some trouble, right? I was locked up with a couple of other individuals who done a considerable amount of time. Some had some had life, who got out, ran back to the streets, ran back to gangbanging, selling drugs, and ended up catching more time. And now, once again, they're back with life sentences. And so, and it's a trip, right? Because one individual who that I'm thinking of specifically, once we started to take these self-help classes, and this is where I encountered this individual in the self-help class, I didn't even know this dude was no no former gang member. Around that time, he was in his probably late 40s or early 50s, and he seemed to be a changed person. To keep it 100, I just thought he was a square, right? Then later on, somebody called me after he had, after we had been out 3 or 4 years, and said, "Hey, man, you hear about such and such? Oh, man, yeah, that dude got a murder and an attempted murder." I was like, what?
Alert Desk with some breaking news in overnight. A man charged with homicide in California has now been arrested here in Nashville. That arrest warrant shows that there was a homicide attempted murder warrant out of Los Angeles for the arrest of Michael Valentine. Metro Police detectives attempted to serve the warrant at his home on Sunset Circle, that's north of downtown Nashville. They arrested Valentine without incident. He now faces a fugitive from justice charge here in Davidson County, and he's being held in Metro Jail on a $250,000 bond.
He's like, yeah, man, that dude is back in jail. And the dude told me, hey, man, I was in the county jail with the dude way back in the, the early 90s. Dude was with the business. He tried to get me behind some street stuff and just a whole bunch of stuff, right? So when you have served a considerable amount of time, due to some circumstances, at times individuals seemingly change their ways because they realize that, continuing to act this way is going to just put myself at a further inconvenience. But it's unfortunate that when some of us get out of prison, as we get further and further and further away from the positive programming and the self-help things that we were taking, we slowly resort back to our old selves. And that's why I think it's important for all of us who have been to prison for a considerable amount of time to get together and have these lifer groups, have these former felon groups, so we all can basically check each other's thinking, man, and stay aware, have these talks, and let other individuals know, hey, man, you headed down a wrong path, because sometimes we get out here, it's hard to get money or whatever. And so, we resort back to some of the things that we knew before we went to prison. I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all, man. I have an extremely poor work ethic. And I think part of that is because, I have literally been hustling and selling some type of drug since around the age of 14. Initially it was weed, then it moved up to crack, right? And so, I remember one time they was building a mall, the Cabazon Outlet Mall, which is maybe about 5 minutes away from where I grew up. My father came and told me and my homie, hey, man, they hiring down there. They paying, $12, $13 an hour or whatever it was at that point in time in 88, 89. But whatever it was extremely good money for those times, man. Me and my homie, we go down there. They give us these shovels. I mean, nothing was up. We had to go over there and bust through this hard like concrete and dirt with these shovels, man. We done that about 30, 40 minutes. And we looked at each other and we said, man, the hell with this. We left the shovels and stuff right there, and the dude had already told us, hey, man, take care of these tools, don't lose them. They're extremely expensive, blah, blah, blah. We dropped them tools on the spot, man, and went right back to the corner because we thinking like, damn, man, while we out here doing all this stuff for $10 an hour, we probably didn't already miss maybe about $100 in dope sales. So we went back to the block, pulled out the sack, got back with the activities, right? But when you getting that fast money, it definitely does not help develop or strengthen any type of work ethic, and it can make a person extremely lazy because you're used to that fast money, you know. And I definitely still do got a problem. Sometimes I still spend money like I'm selling dope, man. I blow through money, man. I blow through bread like it ain't nothing, right? And now it's not so much as on myself, because when I was in my early 20s, you know, I had $40,000-$50,000 put up, mostly at all times, right? And for an individual whose rent wasn't nothing but $350, and actually it was half of that because me and my brother was going half on the rent while I was in Montana. I had 3-4 cars, you know. I had everything that I wanted and needed, you know. And I still was not an individual who was extremely careless with my money to a point where I would necessarily go buy, you know, hundreds of dollars worth of clothes and expensive t-shirts and, you know, expensive clothes, you know. Man, I'd rock the standard issue, the khakis, the t-shirts from the swap meet. Only thing that I really liked that costed a lot of money was jewelry, and I loved tennis shoes, you know. But besides that, I wouldn't go spend no $70 or $80 on no cross colors t-shirt or whatever the style was back then, man. But anyway, I digress a little bit. I'm just saying that it's unfortunate for this situation that Bear has got himself in, and people once again would think, well, after doing all that time, man, isn't that enough time to make an individual see the error of his ways? But like I said, if you don't do anything to retrain your thought process to, you know, to come up with a different type of plan and a different type of way of thinking, it's easy to slip back into those same old habits, man. So anyway, that's extremely unfortunate for Bear. Hopefully, man, hopefully he will get some type of he'll get some type of wiggle room, man. He'll get some type of wiggle room and come up from under that situation, man. Anyway, y'all already know what it is. It's your boy 16 of Life. Resume normal program.